All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Couch Warrior podcast. As always, I'm your host, Mike, and today we're going to be breaking down Dana White's Contender Series, Week 6. I am still doing my show with Wiz. We're going to be going live in like under an hour from now, but I wanted to put up my own breakdown on my own channel because this week we're going to be on his channel. So I'm going to go through this card relatively quickly. I don't have too much conviction on any fight here. We'll see what the lines give us, but we'll have to check it out. This past week was very favorable to us. We cashed a max bet on Dylan Butka. It was sweaty leading up to the fight because literally everybody was betting Hanekom at that point, but we held through and we cashed there. And then we cashed on Barbosa ITD plus 285. We cashed on Gene Silva at plus 205 for a half unit. And then we lost the over 2.5 on the Sergey Sade fight. And we lost the small 0.6 unit parlay with Bruno Lopez. And that was a crazy, crazy fight. So on this card, we've got some good guys and some good women fighting, and we'll hop right into it. So for the first fight, we've got Julia Polastri versus Patricia Alujas. Polastri, she's 11-3-0, 25 years old, 5'2" with a 63-inch reach. On the other side, Patricia, she's 9-2-0, 5'4", she's 2 inches taller. Not much else in terms of measurables or age for her, but honestly, I was looking at this Patricia lady, and I don't think she's very good. I don't really get why she's here. She's a decent striker. She's got okay wrestling. I haven't really seen her grappling tested, but she hasn't really been fighting anybody good. In the Coelho fight, she was getting rocked all over the place, but that was in 2019. She's extremely inactive. She hasn't fought since 2021, and before that, her last fight was in 2019. So she's really not getting in the cage often. And she's fighting somebody who, is still very young. She was 23 with Polastri. She fought Jasmine Jusdavicius on the Contender Series. She was only 23 years old, and she actually outstruck Jasmine by over 20 strikes on the feet. And I think that she's the one who's been improving a lot more. Every fight, she looks better and better. She's very well-rounded. She's the better striker with very little doubt in my mind. The output is better as well, and I just think she's going to be much cleaner on the feet. Both women stand very tall, but Patricia in particular just has her chin up in the air. And I think it's going to be making her liable to get hurt here, even though Polastri doesn't show a ton of power. She does have 4 knockout wins. And her wrestling is pretty good, too. It's come a long way, I would say. Good jiu-jitsu, nice transitions on the ground. Her takedown defense, she got taken down by Jasmine a ton, but Jasmine is huge. And she still did pretty good. I mean, 42% takedown defense against Jasmine. Not the worst thing in the world. She got taken down in the Godic fight, but she scrambled really well. She showed an ability to get on top, get up, and I think she's just a much better fighter here. I wouldn't play her at chalk or anything like that. I'm probably going to end up passing. If it's a close line, yeah, I'll take a 1-unit shot on Polastri, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to do like minus 170-ish, and I'm going to pass on that. And we'll move on to the next fight. Now, this one is a lot more fun. We've got Eduardo Neves versus Jhonata Diniz. Neves, he's 7-1-0, 23 years old, 6'2" with the 78-inch reach. Diniz on the other side, he's 5-0, undefeated. Don't have his age, but I heard he's really young. I just don't know how young. 6'4", he's 2 inches taller. Don't have his reach. I would assume it's around similar. The dude is massive. And this is an interesting fight. We know Neves because he fought Mick Parkins on the Contender Series. Looked fantastic for like 2 minutes and then just died. And Parkins choked him out with almost no resistance. I don't know what that was. I really have no clue. After that, he fought Jackson Goncalves, who got some takedowns on him, but that's not going to be a concern here. Diniz is not going to wrestle. And the Thiago Silva fight, couldn't really take too much from it. It was mostly just a bunch of cage pushing until we got a finish. So the thing with Neves is he's a good striker. He definitely packs heat in his hands. You can tell he's got a lot of power. He loops most of the time, but it's pretty good, and he can definitely hurt people, especially up against the fence. He's good in the clinch. Now, he's a decent wrestler. He just doesn't really go to it often. You don't see him shooting all too much. He did get 2 takedowns in the Parkins fight, and I think he's going to have to wrestle here. I think he will. I think that's his best path. Can he not compete with Diniz on the feet? No, I think he can. Diniz, he is coming from a kickboxing background, fought in Glory, but he was like 3-3-0 there. And I'm watching him, and I see a ton of power. I see a gigantic man. I see very solid striking. I see very good speed for the size of him. I see very good output for the size of him. And overall, I do think he's the better striker. Mostly everything is straight, nice knees. He doesn't even have to clinch you. He can just throw it all the way up, mixes it up really well. Good leg kicks, good body kicks. I just think he's the more dynamic, he's got more tools on the feet than Neves does. Neves is a little bit more limited, but he also does have that power. The problem with Diniz is his ground game is pretty poor. We haven't seen it tested too much. We had this fight with Duarte, who's like tiny and 37 years old and was pushing him up against the fence a ton, but he defended those takedowns for the most part. He's very big, so I imagine it's hard to get him down. But he's a white belt. He's literally a white belt. I saw it on his Instagram in jiu-jitsu. He's a white belt. So I do have my concerns. I think the most likely outcome is a Diniz knockout, but I'm not going to be playing him at chalk. There's just no way. If Neves is like a plus 200 underdog or more, I'm going to play him because I do think there's a tremendous wrestling upside there for him if he just goes to it. The problem is I don't know that he's going to go to it, and Diniz is very dangerous. He's a very solid striker, and I think he will probably get a knockout on the feet. So I'm going to pick Diniz, but very, very little conviction. And it's like if I do bet a side, it'll probably be Neves if he's the underdog. If Diniz is the underdog for some reason, I'll play him too. But I think Neves at like plus 200-ish would be a good play. But we'll move on. Next up, we've got Gene Matsumoto versus Kasey Tanner. Matsumoto, 13-0. He's undefeated, 24 years old, 5'6" don't have his reach actually. And on the other side, we got Kasey Tanner, 6-0, undefeated. He is 31, so he's going to be 7 years older. 5'8", he's 2 inches taller, 69-inch reach, training out of Fight Ready. So Tanner's very solid. He's a good prospect. He's still very green, and I don't know if he's quite ready to go to the UFC, but I do think he is going to be in the UFC at some point. He's a solid wrestler. I don't think his striking is anything too crazy to write home about, but he's a good striker, and he's got good offensive wrestling. Now, on the ground, he's got good control. His back take looks really slick, honestly. I'll give him that. Good figure four. But like the actual takedowns, a lot of it isn't technique. It's mostly power, and he's body lock, muscling guys down. When he is shooting doubles, he's timing it well, and he's got a good ability to get guys down. But my problem is mostly on the feet. He's just very green. He does do good body work, good leg kicks. He's got a good jab. He's well-rounded, but he's just a very green fighter. And on the other side, he's fighting a dude in Matsumoto who's legit, and I really like this guy. He's gone 5 rounds before, so we know he's going to have the cardio. Tanner doesn't display any cardio issues either. I don't think that's going to be a problem. Matsumoto's boxing, really clean, nice and tight, nice counters. I like the footwork. I like the front kicks to the body. I think on the feet, he's going to be much cleaner, much crisper, much more developed. And then he defends himself better as well, I think. He actually holds a high guard, which isn't always that effective if your opponent's going to the body, which Tanner could, but it does help. And Tanner, he seems very hittable to me. The wrestling of Matsumoto, also very solid. He's very explosive, great timing. Can't always hold down his opponents, but he's fighting decent guys from Brazil. Basilio, he had a hard time holding down, but the guy is pretty good. Like, Matsumoto for sure has fought the better guys. There's very little doubt in my mind in that. His takedown defense should hold up here. He can be taken down. Santos did it. He was able to get onto his back, not fully though. I saw a lack of urgency from Matsumoto to get up, which is probably why I won't play him if he's like a big favorite, because I wouldn't be too shocked if Tanner was succeeding with the takedowns. Matsumoto was going for these guillotines or going for submissions from bottom, couldn't get them, and Tanner wins a decision. Now, I don't think that's the most likely outcome. I think Matsumoto beats him pretty much everywhere and submits him at some point. But it's not a guy that I want to back just yet with too much money because he is only 23. He is 13-0, but he's also, in my opinion, a little bit green. Less green than Tanner, but also pretty green, and I wouldn't lay anything too crazy on him. We'll see what they give us with the line. I do think he wins this at a relatively high clip. I like Matsumoto a lot. Like I said, I like both guys, but I like Matsumoto as a prospect big time. I think he might be one of the better guys coming in on this season. Moving on, though, next up, we've got AJ Cunningham versus Stephen Nguyen. Cunningham, 10-2-0. He's 29 years old, 5'10", law school MMA for him. Saw a picture of him and Bryce Mitchell. I thought maybe they were training together, but they're cousins apparently. Nguyen, he's 8-1-0, 30 years old, so he's 1 year older. 5'11", he's 1 inch taller. 73-inch reach, and he is training out of Fortis MMA. So just off my memory, when I first saw the fight announced, I was like, Nguyen's probably going to lose again. Not again, but I thought he was going to lose. This is his third time on the Contender Series. The first time was against Elon Cruz. Lost that fight. Elon Cruz, middle of the road dude, not the best. And then he had that fight, his last fight on the Contender Series, Theo Relay Yang, who was a very green guy, and you can tell that in the cage. And he never fought since then either. Neither guy has, not Nguyen and not Theo. But in the Theo fight, he didn't have much urgency to finish. And I remember him being convinced he was getting a contract, and he was so sick when he didn't. But the striking is very solid, maintains his range really well, great output, everything is crisp, good cardio. Don't see too much wrestling from him. Takedown defense seems pretty good. Defended 4 takedowns from Cruz, defended 3 out of 5 takedowns against Theo. And when Theo did get him down, he couldn't hold him down. He reversed position. Now, AJ Cunningham, it was really hard to figure out what to make of him because he can wrestle, but he also has horrible takedown defense. Like it's no good. He's going life and death with 6-4 guys who are having too much success striking with him. I like his striking too. I think he's a pretty decent prospect, but I don't quite know if he's ready for the UFC because what I'm seeing on the feet is concerning. He's a good striker in his own right, but defensively, there's not much there. He's very hittable. He's going for a lot of spinning moves with not much substance behind them, and he's just not having success, but he's still going to them nonstop. And I'm not seeing a good fight IQ from him. I do think he could maybe use wrestling here. We do see Steven getting taken down at points, and I do think he has better top control than someone like Theo, who was very, very green. Cunningham, I think, could have more success on the ground. It's just not something he goes to too much. And Nguyen does have a good ability to get back up and scramble. And on the feet, I just think he's going to be cleaner and crisper. My only concern is that he hasn't fought since that Theo fight, 2021. I don't really know why. I don't know if he's just been sitting out. And Cunningham has been a lot more active. He's had recent fights. 2 months ago, fought Jason Mullen. 1 year ago, the Conley fight. Neither of those was too impressive, though, to me, even though he got the finish in this one, in the Mullen fight. He was getting taken down. It's just not a good look. I think Nguyen's cleaner. I think he's going to win a decision here again. But I think this time Dana will just give him a contract because, like, it's rough to not give it to him again if he wins, in my opinion. But who knows? Who knows? I do think he wins. If I get a close line, I'll be on Nguyen. I just think he's much cleaner on the feet. And we can move on to the main event. So for this fight, I was excited to see this one. We got James Llontop versus Malik Lewis. James is 13-2-0, 24 years old. He's 6 feet tall. Don't have his reach. Lewis on the other side, he's 6-1-0, 27. He's going to be 3 years older. 6 feet as well, 76-inch reach. I do think he has the reach advantage just from my eye test. And this fight has been pretty hard for me to decide on. I was back and forth because I was impressed with Malik in the Trevor Peek fight. I had Malik Lewis there, and he won the first round more than likely. He had a bunch of back control time, showed good wrestling. He's a good wrestler. You see it even on the regionals. He can be taken down himself, and that's something I'll talk about soon. But he does probably have a slight wrestling edge here. I do think he's going to be the stronger guy. At least he looks it. And just watching James, like you do see him get taken down by lower level opposition, and it's just not a great look. I do think he shows a good ability to scramble and get back up, so it's not going to be easy. But I think that Lewis probably wins round 1 at a decent clip here if he's not getting finished. And he's a good striker in his own right. Does wing a little bit too much for my liking, but he does have good power. He does go to the body. And look, he got knocked out by Trevor Peek, but Trevor Peek, he might not be a clean fighter at all, but he's a guy who's hard to deal with. Tons of pressure, big power, just doesn't get out of your face. And Malik Lewis did what he could, but eventually he broke, and I think a lot of people would break under Trevor Peek. Now, James Llontop, he probably wouldn't, and he'd probably beat Trevor Peek, in my opinion. Guy can wrestle as well. He is fighting on the Peruvian scene, so it's hard to know what to make of his competition. But it's not like Malik Lewis is fighting studs either. So I don't think it's a huge difference. James is showing pretty good striking, good output. He's going to be a little bit crisper, a little bit cleaner, throw more straight in this fight, in my opinion. He's got his own wrestling, like I mentioned before. It's hard for me to really rate who's higher because of that levels of opposition. I think Lewis has a slight edge. But the thing with Lewis is, I think even outside of the Peek fight, he could fade as the fight extends. And James is not going to fade. I really don't think he will. He's shown really good cardio, and I think it's going to hold up here. I think he's going to use the clinch really effectively here if Lewis is pushing him up against the fence. And I do think that James Llontop picks up the win here. I will take the shot on Lewis if he's a big underdog, like plus 200, 250, plus 300. I would probably put a half unit on Lewis. But I think that most of the time, not nine, maybe like eight out of 10 times, 7.5 out of 10 times, I think James wins this fight. So I'm going to pick James Llontop for this one. Sorry if I'm butchering his last name. I don't know how to pronounce that. And that's it, guys. That's 5 fights. Thank you all for watching. I'll go over my picks one more time, and then we'll get out of here. Julia Polastri. I'll pick Jhonata Diniz, but very little conviction. Gene Matsumoto, Stephen Nguyen, and James Llontop. It's probably going to be a really light slate for me, not like last week, but we'll have to wait and see what the odds are. They're probably going to come out either tomorrow or Friday. They've been coming out a little bit earlier now, but you never know. Sometimes they wait until Saturday to drop them. So we'll have to wait and see. But thank you guys for watching. Make sure to run back my UFC breakdown that I did yesterday. Went live with Brady from DFS by the Numbers. It was a great time. So make sure to check that one out. And then tomorrow, make sure to tune in on Twitter for Twitter Spaces with me and MMA Propaholic for Prop Talk for UFC 293. We're going to talk about the card from a prop perspective. And that's it, guys. Thank you guys all for tuning in. And peace out and good luck.